Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here in Forza Horizon 2 with a challenge. I have been trying to build some proper jelly cars, not the cars that people seem to have borrowed our name for. No, these are proper jelly vehicles. Now, for those of you who haven't watched our channel for as long, don't remember some of our older videos, I'll give you a brief history lesson in the FailRace jelly cars. So it started quite a while back on Forza 4. I might be able to find some footage of this car. I'm not entirely sure, hiding somewhere on my computer. We were sent a Jeep Cherokee, the older version of the car that I have here. And me and Daniel were tasked with completing one lap of the Nürburgring. The catch was that the Jeep would basically fall over when it went around a corner. The minute you tried to take a corner, or the minute you tried to hold a corner for any length of time, it didn't really seem to matter a huge amount about speed, but if you kept sort of turning a corner for any length of time, the Jeep would gradually, it had grip roll in effect, which is strange for a car in all honesty, or for a real car anyway, and it would fall over. The Jeep was perfectly drivable. The thing that made it interesting was that it hadn't got ruined cambers and toes completely. You could drive it in a straight line absolutely fine. You could get it up to fairly sensible-ish, I say sensible-ish speeds for a car. But whenever you took a corner, it would fall over, which we found very much amusing. We got sent various versions. I made a version with a Jeep Wrangler. Over time, we had Ford Raptors, Land Rovers, etc. All of them gradually got more and more crazy. They did become more and more undrivable. The more cambers and toes and crazy angles you put on the wheels, yes, it made the vehicles fall over a lot quicker and a lot easier, but it did also make them utterly undrivable, or getting towards the utterly undrivable, shall we say. And the thing with the first Jeep that made it so amusing was that it was fairly, like, the brakes were fairly normal, the straight line driving was fairly normal. It was just the cornering and falling over that was very, very silly. I had a go at building the cars on Forza 5, and while I did get a Ford F100 pickup truck to fall over, I got to fall over the minute you ever tried to take a corner, the car was practically useless. You could barely get it above sort of 50 without it wandering and crabbing all over the road. So the task was to try and build a car on Horizon 2 that would be able to fall over going around a corner normally, but would still be perfectly drivable. Which is, I thought I'd have a go with the Cherokee first. I thought it would be sort of a suitable test vehicle to start with. It has now just started pouring with rain, which is probably not going to help this test. I don't know. Let's go and find out, shall we, when we go around the corner. No, it's not made any difference whatsoever. This Jeep Cherokee, I've spent quite a while tinkering and adjusting the setup of this car to try and make it work as possible, or best as possible, I should say, sorry. This will go up onto two wheels. It will go up onto two wheels very consistently, absolutely on its own accord. Even in the rain, I thought we may have a problem because we wouldn't have enough grip. But no, even in the rain, the Cherokee, it's just up on its side the minute we go around the corner. Now, ideally, I would want the car to be toppling over constantly. Then that is the idea. That is the true jelly car, if you like. I mean, this actually goes up onto two wheels so easily. It's just incredibly easy to get this vehicle up onto two wheels, but it won't go over. No amount of adjusting and tinkering with the setup, I can't make it fall over. There may be something somewhere critical that I'm missing, but I certainly haven't seen it. And when you watch it, I will try my best to show this. There will be sparks. That's part of that sparks is me hitting stuff. You will see sparks pouring off the side of the car as the bodywork scrapes along the floor, and I can't get it to overcome that. I can't! Ignore me completely! We've fallen over! How have I done that? What? I was wrong! The Cherokee fell over. I'm not sure if there wasn't a small gate that had an effect in that. I bet I can never do that again. I spent so long with this Jeep, and it's finally fallen over. Okay, I lied. It does fall over, but it's very rare. Normally... I may have had something to do with a curb or something. Normally it doesn't. Normally it'll go around a corner on its side, and no amount of me fiddling with it will actually make it. You may have the odd occasion with perhaps the absolute right terrain and hitting a curb and so on, or hitting a bump at the right point for rolling the car. Yeah, you may eventually get it over, but normally it's just it's like if it is going over, it's because it's hitting something. Normally it just comes back down, whereas the jelly cars of old would go over absolutely on their own without no assistance from anything else. So you can see the sparks coming off the floor with the Jeep. But this was pretty good. This is pretty good progress compared to some of the cars, the amount of time and some of the cars I had to play around with on Forza 5 to try and get this to roll. So I was actually feeling fairly confident that I could make something that worked. I mean, this is not really the ultimate ideal vehicle for a jelly car in the end. You want it to be as tall as possible, have as high a ride height as possible, and be as narrow as possible. I mean, yes, this is tall, it has a high ride height, but it's not the tallest vehicle, it's not got the highest centre of mass of any vehicle out there. It's also quite wide, being a modern SUV. So I had ideas for some other cars to use. Now, my next vehicle that I tried is a vehicle that I had a lot of hope in. It is the Jeep Wrangler. Again, this is another car fitted with that 6.2 litre V8. It's in bloody everything. Again, completely maxed out with absolutely everything. And I thought this car would be pretty damn good when it came to the falling over. I had one of these in Forza 4, and it tumbled and rolled very spectacularly while still being perfectly controllable. Never got to have a play with one of these in Forza 5, it was never in that game. So, having seen what the Cherokee did, I expected great things from the Wrangler. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work. As you can see, it's not going up on two wheels anywhere near as nicely as the Cherokee. And I'm not sure why. This confuses me. This should be ideal, really, for when it comes to rolling a vehicle, as I kill a Garrus. This should really be the perfect vehicle when it comes to this sort of thing. It's narrow, it has a very high centre of mass, it has the highest ride height of any vehicle I think there is on this game. Somewhere over here, there we go, tune car. The ride height is, that's the height, I'm pretty sure that's the highest I've seen. It's huge ride height on this vehicle, and with everything is all soft, all the anti-roll bars, turns out putting the anti-roll bars soft makes this car a little bit better. It will make it go on two wheels fractionally easily, more easily, whatever, you know exactly what I mean. Yeah, it goes on two wheels slightly better with the anti-roll bars turned to soft. I just can't get it to be consistent. You saw the Cherokee, every time I took a corner, Cherokee would be up on two wheels. You can get this one to go up onto two wheels, there we go. Kind of saw it a bit there. Most of the time though, it's because I'm hitting a curb or I'm hitting a bit of debris that's putting the car up onto the two wheels. Not because it's actually wanting to. Like the previous Jeep, that'll do it on demand, if you like, whenever you take a corner near enough. This, it'll sometimes do it if it feels like it. If it's in a good enough mood, it may go up on two wheels. If there are some bumps there, there we go. It may kind of, yeah, it just doesn't really want to. And I don't know why that is. I was honestly expecting this to be, I was expecting this to fall over quite easily, having seen what the Cherokee did. But no, I mean, when it does go up on two wheels as well, it's not really scraping along the ground in the same way. It's not really catching the bodywork. It doesn't go far enough over on two wheels, on its own anyway, unless you assist it with something. Whoopsie. You can still lose control of this car. Yeah, the suspension is still very wibbly and wobbly. But as far as being a proper jetty car goes and falling over on demand, or almost every corner, it's not happening. It's absolutely not happening with the Jeep Wrangler. Now, my next vehicle, there was another vehicle I thought, well, if the Wrangler's not going to work, I figured this next one, surely it must work. Surely it must be decent when it came to falling off, because again, it's absolutely perfect dimensions-wise. It's fairly narrow, very tall, high ride height, and having never used one of these in a Forza game before, I was feeling fairly confident when it came to the Land Rover Defender. But guess what? Even with exactly the same setup as the previous cars, with all of the power imaginable from a 6.2 litre V8, the Land Rover does very, very little, as you as you can see. Now, if we go to tune car, I believe I put the roll bars back on while I was messing around with it. Actually, no, I haven't put the roll bars back on. Exactly the same setup as all the previous cars. Ride height not quite as high as the Jeeps on the rear, but overall it's near enough. All of the suspension, etc., soft as possible, and that's the best way. It's got all of the camber I can put on it. It's the best way to get these cars up onto two wheels around a corner. This is even worse than the Wrangler. This is absolutely, it's nothing. There was nothing at all going on with it. I was really, really hoping. Even we got the big metal box on the top, trying to give it as high a centre of mass as possible, which I know is kind of counterintuitive to normal racing game strategy, etc. It's nothing. It's really hard. I have got this a couple of times onto two wheels, but it's always involved curbs, and it's just not going to do it. Again, I'm not sure why. Why won't this? I really thought. I mean, looking at the centre of mass on this, I really thought that this would do it. I really thought this would go over. I mean, we can wobble it down the road. It's still perfectly controllable. None of these cars have I broken in such a way that they are absolutely uncontrollable, which is a good thing. It's definitely a good thing, as they can still be driven normally, and that's part of the challenge. You've got to stay drivable. But there's no rolling. There's no even attempt at rolling. There's no spectacular two-wheeled stunts from this car. I don't think I've ever got it far enough to actually scrape along the floor, aside from if you threw it off like a hill or a banking somewhere. You're not going to do it. And that confuses me as well. That shouldn't work, in my opinion. This should be easy to topple over. It really should be. But no. The Land Rover is very stubborn, and that's quite a disappointment actually. I had high hopes for the Land Rover of being an epic silly car that topples over, but no. Nothing from the Land Rover. Now my next vehicle is another one that I have used fairly I've used it in Forza 5. I used it I think for a couple of episodes while trying to build a jelly car. The Mercedes G Wagon. Now, when we had this on drag tyres on the drag strip, Husky managed to get one of these to do almost a front flip, I think. You could get it to do all sorts of crazy things. When I tried to build this up as a jelly car, I could get it to go a long way onto two wheels. I think I did get it to fall over once, and broken suspension then made it do all sorts of crazy things, but I can't reliably break suspension on this game, certainly not without breaking lots of other stuff. Again, this is another car that is the right dimensions. It's fairly narrow, well, narrowish by SUV standards anyway. Again, fairly high. The ride height is perhaps a little bit of a concern on this car. I say a concern. It's less than ideal. In fact, I haven't taken the end. I've put these back on. Yeah, I was fiddling about with all of these, trying to get them to work as best. We'll get rid of them, and then we will find there we go, the ride height. It's fairly sizable, actually. I thought it was a little bit lower. Never mind. It's got, again, fairly sizable ride height, but perhaps not quite as high a centre of mass as the Jeep or the Land Rover. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I know there's no real way of measuring it, but from looking at it, I'm fairly sure of that. And this one falls over. I don't get it, but it's exactly the same. Exactly the same. And this, if anything, I would expect not to go over. And we've got a jelly car. You see, absolutely perfectly drivable. Mercedes, you can go in a straight line. Okay, oh, that corner it didn't fall over. Bounces around on the two wheels, and it will go over. And whoop, nearly. There we go. Okay, we just brought it back. The Mercedes will fall over. It's not amazingly consistent, perhaps not as consistent as the cars we had on Forza 4. And if you have the roll bars in the default setting that I had there, it will not actually fall over. I couldn't get it to ever fall over. The minute you take the roll bars off with this suspension setup, then you've got a rolly Mercedes. It does tend to get caught a little bit on the floor. Now, I'm not sure if that's... So there we go. I think it might be slightly to do with the... Oh, getting quite a little bit unhappy with me doing that. Yeah, I think it's partly to do with the sort of the big side skirt thing we've got going on. Woo! We're attacking the crowd! Ah yes, that amazing invisible force field you have around the city of Nice. Yeah, it's slightly to do with the side skirts of this vehicle that cause a bit of the problem. Oh, the game's unhappy with me now that I'm doing this. If you want to drive this car normally though, look, it's kind of drivable. Can we take this corner normally? We're braking, okay, we're not taking it very fast, but look, we can kind of drive it, and you can kind of keep it all together. We've got a jelly car! Mercedes works! Tree! Whoopsie. We have our first proper Forza Horizon 2 jelly car in the Mercedes G Wagon, and it's as good as the Forza 4 ones. It goes up on its side. in fact, it actually does it so slow. I think this is better than the Forza 4 ones we had, because it goes up on its side and it takes it so long to go over. You can kind of catch it, so you can hold it on two wheels for such a long time. Oh, it's bloody raining again. Woo! And then, yeah, look at that. See, you can bring it back down. I love this car. It's it's an absolutely stupid contraption, but fantastic with it. And in the rain, can we get it to go over in the rain? I'm not actually sure how much difference the rain makes on the grip. Yeah, the Mercedes G Wagon works perfectly. I really thought the Wrangler, like, if this is doing that, I really thought the Land Rover and the Jeep Wrangler would work. But no, they will not. But jelly cars are possible, as we can see here. Oh dear, I clattered into that. Cars that fall over when you go around a corner. Perfectly possible. Which got me thinking of what other cars could I use that may possibly fall over fairly easily. This sprung to mind. The Willys Jeep. Again, with the same engine. The Mercedes G Wagon, I forgot to show you. My bad on that one. Can we go find that one quickly? Somewhere. Mercedes G Wagon. Mercedes G Wagon. Mercedes... Oh, I'm in the bloody car, aren't I? The Mercedes is the standard engine. It's about 850 or something like that horsepower. Again, everything else absolutely maxed out. So we get in the Willys Jeep. Now, the downside to this car is, and the reason I thought this may potentially have problems, it hasn't quite got the same ride height as the other vehicles. Yes, it's an off-road Jeep, but it's not quite as high as the other cars. It's still a fairly sizable suspension, 8.6. It's not as high a ride height as the other cars. Again, everything else is exactly the same between these vehicles. And this has been converted back to four-wheel drive. All of these cars that I'm using here, four-wheel drive. Easiest way to make them controllable when you're doing this. This will do all sorts of weird bouncing around. Okay, it's phenomenally scary driving this car. It's another one that I wouldn't want to be a passenger in because it really shakes and rocks around from side to side. But it won't go up onto the two wheels. Whoop, in front of the... nearly got in front of the Transit. I have on a couple of occasions got it up onto two wheels. That's a Subaru. Sorry. Yeah, I got it a small bit on two wheels on a couple of corners, but that was mainly with the helps of bumps or scenery or sort of bits of debris. High speeds, it lifts up and almost wheelies, which is interesting characteristic of the Willys Jeep. I will give it that. It's stupidly fast accelerating as well. Aha! Not very often you see a Jeep fly past a Pagani Zonda Cinque. We're up to 181. Let's slow that one down. It'll go very quickly and it will handle badly, but it's not going to roll. It's not going to roll. It's not even going to bother trying. So as far as me figuring out what causes the cars to actually become jelly vehicles, why some of them work and some of them don't, I'm not sure. I mean, I never expected this one to be perhaps quite as amazing, but I did expect it to at least try and lift up its wheels, try and go on two wheels. I can't even get it to do it now deliberately. Okay, let's aim for a curb. Speed doesn't really matter too much, provided you've got enough speed. No, see, it's not going to do it. It's just, I don't know why this doesn't want to do anything. Well, this kind of makes a little bit more sense than some of them, but I would expect it to at least do something with this squashier suspension. Sure, that's a measurement of suspension. I'm pretty sure that's that's a measurement of suspension. Now, our final vehicle, and the one that it was going to be the last resort if nothing else worked, and that would be it's not even under them anymore, is it? I've forgotten where it hides itself. The Ford F100. Where is it? It's hiding itself. Here we go. The Ford pickup truck. This was the only car that I could get to reliably fall over on Forza 5. I could get it fall over pretty much anywhere. It was absolutely undrivable though. It had to have so much toe in on the car that you couldn't keep it in a straight line at more than 70 miles an hour. Fortunately for me this time round, the Ford doesn't need a huge amount of toe in. See, look at this. We can, if we want to, get it up to, look, it's gone past 100 miles an hour. Again, this has got the same engine as all the other cars I've had. The 6.2 V8, sorry, 9.2 V8 would be interesting. And the minute we turn the steering wheel with any sort of vigour, have a guess what may happen with the Ford. Yeah, this one falls over on demand as well. literally whatever I do, if I do any amount of steering, any serious amount of steering, it doesn't even seem to matter what speed. Cross grass, whee, at 40 miles an hour. Over goes the Ford. It just topples over. And I'm not sure why. I mean, this has not got the highest ride. In fact, this may have the lowest ride height of any of the vehicles. I also don't think this has the highest centre of mass. I mean, sure, it's got a fairly tall cab, but I'm not sure that it's got the highest centre of mass. Certainly not higher than the Jeep Wranglers. But it falls over, not 30 miles an hour. Okay, we can't quite do it at 30. But there we go. And we've gone over again. It's absolutely fantastic fun. It's better than the one I had in Forza 5 because it's perfectly drivable. I mean, again, much like with the Mercedes, I can control it. Almost. Man, okay, I lied. I can just about control... You can just about... If you wanted to drive this around a court, it would be very difficult to do so, but I reckon you could do. I mean, you would just have to be very careful on the steering, and if it did go up on two wheels, you'd have to be very quick and ready to catch it. But it's perfectly capable of staying in a straight line. I say we've got proper jelly cars again. Certainly two of them can be used. I'm not sure. I haven't had to go with the with the Rally Fighter and the Ram Runner yet. That's going to be saved for something else. But certainly with normal everyday SUVs, you can turn them into this silly nonsense. I was amazed at how easily, having had all the trouble with the other vehicle, most of the other vehicles, the Mercedes was nice and cooperative, I really didn't think that this would work so kindly. But it does! It's just whenever you want and the Ford will be on its roof. It's an excellent vehicle. Of course, bumps, it's the same sort of vaguely controllableness over the bumps and round corners normally. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure quite why this one rolls over so easily and everything else doesn't. But there we go. Yes, the jelly cars are possible in Forza Horizon 2. Not quite sure what it is about the certain cars that makes them fall over and why some of them don't. But you can have some very silly vehicles. If I try and do a donut, do we get unhappy with me? No, a little bit too powerful for that to work. Yeah, jelly cars are very much possible, which is great news. So yeah, if you want to have a go, if you want to have a go at building one of these particular cars, it's exactly the same setup on the lot of them. It does exactly the same thing. Maximum camber. Keep the don't touch the toe if you want the vehicles to ever be drivable. Toe in may make a tiny bit of difference, but it's not going to roll a vehicle out. If the vehicle's going to roll over on its own, the toe's not going to make a difference, and it will make it very hard to drive. Anti-roll bars, make sure they're soft, as you saw with the Merc. You want to make sure you have the anti-roll bars to soft. Best way of getting them to roll over, and of course, as high a ride height as possible. Soft suspension, soft damping. And then you can get some very silly contraptions. So there we go, but that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.